Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So there's a few races that look quite good tomorrow. I know there was a lot of criticism about the small fields at different races. I still think there's enough racing to be interested in tomorrow. At least we've got it on and it's not been abandoned due to the wind or the rain or the snow or whatever else we get racing abandoned for in the UK. And we'll start off with the 140 at Musselburgh, the Frodon Novices Limited Handicap Chase. And to be honest, I think Monmoral's going to take all the beating here, isn't he? He's got some form that's plenty good enough to win this. The likes of, this 158.3, 147.8, not that long ago when finishing second at Cheltenham. It's form that should be plenty good enough and far too good to beat these. There was a suggestion after finishing 7th last time that they might go up in trip to 3 mile, and he was entered in a race last week over 3 mile that ended up getting abandoned. But this 2.5, they're not going to go ridiculously hard like they did at the Cheltenham last time he ran. They're just going to go a nice, even gallop sort of thing, and I think Monmoral will be able to keep in contention and pick up strongly towards the end, to be honest. I don't see this being the stamina sapping 2.5 mile that Monmoral probably ran in last time. This should be a lot easier, and I think he's going to win this quite comfortably, to be honest. They've got that run under their belt and he's the right favourite. He is currently, he's 5-2 just in places. I think I'd be very surprised if he got beat, to be honest, and they will be very disappointed if Monmoral gets beat here. I thought Monmoral was going to end up in graded races, to be honest, and be a top-class Grade 1 horse over fences. Hasn't quite worked yet. This could certainly be a step to going there. And obviously, it's the Frodon Novices Limited Handicap Chase. Bryony takes the ride for Paul Nicholls. I mean, perfect combination to win this race, isn't it? Moving on to the 2 o'clock at Sandown, and initially I didn't think I was going to find one in this race, but to be honest, I think in Excelsius Dio, his effort last time out when he was second behind Madara at Cheltenham was a very good run. Calico was fourth. He's obviously done well since. He finished second at Doncaster recently. Third was Funambule Savola, who did disappoint at Doncaster as well. But I think this race looks to have horses in here that I think are very unreliable. Saint Segal being one of those, Red Rookie being one of those. Red Rookie looked like he was going to be quite smart. Similarly, Saint Segal, you thought was going to win Ascot 2 runs ago, but then didn't back that up, being beaten by First Flow at Lingfield. His jumping was a bit of a mess that day. Yes, he could improve for his jump. His jumping could certainly come back to its best. But if we look at the R figures definitely suggest that in Excelsius Dio is both still lightly raced and improving. And he's now had, what's he had? 4, 5... He's had 6 runs over fences for Harry Fry. And he's slowly getting up there. His R figures are getting better and better and better. And I think he will now take all of the beating in this race, where I've just got question marks about some of the others, or most of the others, to be honest. And again, he is unfortunately favourite. He's currently 2s. I think that's quite surprising. I thought he'd be 6-4 here, sort of thing. I think it's a slightly easier race than what he ran in last time. He went off 5-2. I think favourite last time he did. This is an easier race in my opinion against less consistent and less well handicapped horses. So in Excelsius Dio, I think we'll take all of the beating at Sandown. We stay at Sandown for the 2:35, and again we're going to be highlighting the favourite, which sounds quite boring. Hermes Elen, he's now 5-4. He's going to win this, in my opinion. One of the big areas I like to look at is obviously the R figures, and we can see that he's around 148.1, 147.5, 148.1, 149.1, 148.6. Only this one run from Colonel Harry would be good enough to beat that, or to be in the mix, sort of thing. There was one couple of runs ago from Jello that looked okay. The others shouldn't be good enough. And I think the fact that Hermes Hélène is just so consistent, I think he's a proper Grade 1 horse, Hermes Hélène, especially in the UK. I think his last 2 defeats have both come to, I was going to say foreign horses, but he obviously got beat in the Ballymore when there was quite a few Irish in the race. I'm just checking to see Ireland, Fergal O'Brien with Marble Sands. I think Hermes Hélène was ridden to win that. Marble Sands was ridden to see what happens. Then went to Aintree, got beat by Ireland and Dan Skelton's Katira. Again, I think Hermes Hélène was kind of ridden to win that. Katira was ridden to place. Then went to Newbury and won comfortably, beating Nickelback. Then came to Kempton and got beat by the French horse. So I think every time he's been taking on British trained horses or English trained horses and trying to beat those, he can comfortably do it. I think he comfortably does it. When he tries to take on the Irish or when he tries to take on the French, that's where he's come unstuck and been beaten by better horses. But I think none of these, Le Patron, Jello, Colonel Harry or Nickelback, are good enough to beat Hermes Hélène here. And I think the 5-4 price, I think he'll end up going off odds on, to be honest. We move on to the 250 at Musselburgh, and I got one. I'll just start that again because I sounded like I didn't know how to speak. And I think I have one that I quite like here. Well, I do like the horse. And I'm willing to forgive it its last run. And that horse is Caithness. Now, Caithness, last time out, finished 6th of 6 in a handicap at Kempton. Albeit in a decent-ish race. The winner, I think third, has done, looked quite good anyway. The winner was definitely well handicapped. And I think Caithness kind of ruined his chance by being so keen for much of the race. That was with Alan Doyle on. Derek takes back over. And if we go back to his previous run before that, when he was third behind Impose Trois and Donica, that's very strong form. Making most of the running that day, he just found those two too good late on. But that was at Cheltenham. That was in a good race. Impose Trois, did he go on to win the Greatwood? I'm saying he went on to win the Greatwood. No, he didn't. He went on to finish second at Ascot in the Betfair Exchange Trophy and third recently in the Lanzarote Hurdle. Good form. Donica has come out and won since as well in a handicap. After finishing third in a good handicap behind Go Dante, then came out and won at Warwick. So I think the form is there to see for Caithness. That's not the issue. It was just purely he ran a flat race at Kempton. Things didn't quite work. Derek is back on board. I think that will really help. I think he knows what Caithness is like, whereas maybe Alan Doyle, who was having his first run or first ride on the horse, just got caught out by the way he was so keen. And Caithness is my selection here. And does have a couple of good bits of form. This is 152.8 when winning at Kelso, up north where he stays. Thankfully, you know, we've highlighted a few favourites. This one is not favourite. Caithness is currently available at 11 to 1, and I think that's a decent price. If he'd ran okay at Kempton, he would be much shorter. And if he'd won that race, I know he didn't. You can say, well, he didn't win it, so what are you going on about? I think he should have gone a lot closer than he did. And I'm more than happy to forgive him that run and base him on his November form at Cheltenham behind Impose Trois and Donica. Moving on to the 3 o'clock at Leopardstown. A good race, a 3-mile handicap, 51 grand to win it. So I think it's a race that they will be trying. All of these will be trying for this race. And there's a couple that I'm interested in. One I'm going to select and one I'm going to kind of hope it doesn't come back to bite us on the bum. The one I hope doesn't come back to bite us on the bum is Maxim, who I still think is well handicapped. Carl Miller taking 7 off means it's running off 130. Considering it went off 7 to 4 for this race last year off 131, to see it currently, what price is it currently? Remember, it went off 7 to 4 off a £1 higher mark essentially, and it's now 28 to 1 off that £1 lower mark. So, you know, could certainly come back to bite us in the bum, this one. However, the selection I've got for tomorrow is 9 Graces. I really like 9 Graces. I thought his form last time out, I thought his run last time out was a good run, behind a horse who he does reoppose. Gayoth Chul. It's is it Irish? And I don't know how to say that, unfortunately. And Farouk Delem was back in third. Now, that was actually over 2 miles, 7 furlongs and 80 yards. This is over 3 mile and 104 yards. If that race had been over 3 mile and 104 yards, 9 Graces would have got up to win. 9 Graces was finishing really strongly. His previous effort, when he was third over 2.5, fine. That was his comeback run. And the run before that was probably the only disappointing run he's had in a little while, when he was 5th, sent off 4-1 for a race at Kilbeggan. The jockey came back in and said she never travelled that day, and I think that was key. That was a big thing in the fact that that's her only run, in my opinion, that she's disappointed in when conditions have looked ideal. Owen Walsh said she never travelled. Hopefully she'll travel a bit better. I think they will wait with her again out the back, and I think this is a race that she can certainly go well in. And I think she's going to run a really big race here. And she's a better price. She's currently 10-1. Just refreshing that to show you. She is currently 10-1 in places, and I think I definitely think she'll reverse the form with Girth Schwül. And I think I think she's the one to be on 9 Graces with this race. You know, actually being beaten in the Pertemps qualifier probably didn't matter in the end, in the fact that it was a qualifier. You got her qualified. You can now go and win this race, turn up for the Cheltenham Festival in the Pertemps final, and I think would go well there as well. Move on to the 3:10 at Sandown. If you follow my videos, you'll know exactly who I'm going to say here. It is Ed Keeper. So I really think Ed Keeper should have won last time out. The jockey tried to be was too confident. Made a mess, I think, of the last. Would have won without making that mess of the last. Went off 5-2 favourite. And I think he would have won that quite comfortably. He did go up £5 for that, which isn't ideal, but I don't think that's enough. I really think his form is very, very strong and very, very progressive. I think he's the one to beat here. Not the best price, 4-1 currently. I reckon it might go off shorter than that. And I do think he's going to take all of the beating. It is a good prize. It's 56 grand to win this, so it is a race that they will be trying. They won't be trying to get him well handicapped for the Cheltenham Festival or anything. They will be trying in this race, and I do like that. I like that angle, trying to look for races where they're not, looking for subsequent targets. Ed Keeper in that one. And finally, I've got one in the 4:10 at Leopardstown, and unbelievably, I think this one's favourite as well. We did highlight this a little while ago. Path de Rue, as soon as he comes back to a handicap, will take all of the beating. Ran at Christmas, I think it was, on Boxing Day, and was coming there to make a big challenge when falling. I say falling, it's gone down as a fall. Was absolutely clattered by the Folkes Tiara, who went on to win the race. I think if the Folkes Tiara hadn't clattered Path de Rue would have won that quite comfortably. They then ran him in a beginner's chase. I think it was a beginner's it was a beginner's chase, and that was purely to get a bit of confidence back after being so badly smashed into. Beat that day by Hunter's Yarn. Nothing wrong with that as form. That's very good form. This is the handicap. It's good prize money as another race I just highlighted. 51 grand to win this, so it's not like they're going to be waiting for something else with Path de Rue, and I think Path de Rue will take all of the beating here. There were a few others that I was interested in seeing, including Pekin Opera at Sandown in the first in a novice race. I can't show you the ratings for those. You've got to pay a premium member for that. Obviously, is it the Irish Gold Cup? Is that what they call it? Galopin de Champ versus Fast or Slow. I think Galopin de Champ actually beats Fast or Slow quite comfortably. Facile Vega versus Marine Nationale versus Founder 50. That should be a good race. I don't think Marine Nationale is going to have it all as easy as a lot of people think. It is the Irish Gold Cup, that other race that I mentioned. And the handicap at Sandown, I think it is. The Novice Handicap Hurdle featuring Ginkgo Blue and 135 Not Out. Magical King was the one I was interested in, but wasn't quite strong enough to make it a selection. So these are my selections for tomorrow. Montmirail at 5-2 should take all of the beating there. This is a much easier race. Connections would love to win this. Bryony would love to win a race named after Frodon. In Excelsius Dio, I think that form behind Madara is good, and the others all have question marks. Hermes Hélène, I think, is a proper Grade 1 horse. I don't think the rest are. Very consistent as well, Hermes Hélène. Caithness, I'm forgiving him. That run behind Rare Edition, that was very disappointing. Derek back on board, I think, will help settle Caithness. 9 Graces, I think this will work out beautifully. The trip and everything looks ideal. This extra few 100 yards, I think, will be enough to reverse the form with this one here, and hopefully will run a big race. Ed Keeper can bounce back after a disappointing ride last time. Should be still well handicapped. And finally, Path to Rue can also bounce back after being completely swiped out by the Folks DR 2 runs ago.